What if I told you you could be done picking out your entire system, including speakers, in about 10 seconds? Would you believe me? Today, we're talking about the KIipsch 7s. Are these for you? And also, how do they compare to their bigger brother, the 9s? They're for some people, that's for sure. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about the KIipsch 7s. Big shout out and thank you to today's sponsor, Ridge. But more about them later. If you don't know my stance on powered speakers, I haven't been a huge fan of powered speakers. The KIipsch 7s are what one could consider to be a powered speaker. So you don't have a separate amplifier with all the cables. You don't have a separate DAC, a separate phono stage. It's all in the speaker, which means it's very convenient. I don't know. Speaker. It's very convenient. You just plug it into the wall. You plug your HDMI cable from your television, the E-arc, into the speaker. You turn it on and Bob's your uncle. And you can connect different sources to it, which we will get to here in a second. But I wanted to tell you that for a long time, I had a bias about powered speakers. Why? Because I didn't like any of them that I heard. I guess that's not a bias. If you have experience and then you don't like a whole specific thing, is that a bias? Or is a bias not liking the thing before you even tried it? That's contempt prior to investigation. Anyway, I had contempt after investigation with powered speakers. Big shout out and thank you to today's sponsor, Ridge. Ridge makes awesome tiny wallets, cool key cases that you can go from this to this. No jingly keys. They also make pens that you can write with. I was a little skeptical about going from a leather chair in my back pocket to something like this. One thing we can all count on is people trying to steal your money. That's why there's RFID blocking technology so people can't rip off your debit card or your credit card numbers. This thing can accommodate up to 12 cards if you want. That's a lot of cards. I don't know why anybody would have 12 cards. I have 4. Credit card, debit card, license, insurance card. That's all you need. But if you need more, you can fit more. So run on over to ridge.com/cheapaudioman and bundle a bunch of cool products together and get up to 40% off. Ridge has over 3 million customers, over 50,000 5-star reviews. They have a satisfaction guarantee, which means if you don't like it, you can send it back and get a refund. They make high quality products. Father's Day is right around the corner. What better way to say I love you, Dad, than getting him an awesome wallet so that he doesn't have to go to the chiropractor anymore because of his huge wallet in his back pocket. And we all know that Dad likes to put a pen in his front pocket with a little notebook. Why? I don't know. But we should all carry around a pen. Now you can, and you don't have to worry about it breaking because it's a high quality product from Ridge. They also make awesome pocket knives. So run over to ridge.com/cheapaudioman. Check out all the awesome products. And when you bundle them together, you can get up to 40% off. Thank you, Ridge, for sponsoring today's video. First, let's start off with how they look. They look brilliant. These are walnut brilliant. I don't know what's going on with my voice today. They're walnut veneered, and they are gorgeous. One thing about KIipsch, and I was showing my son because I had the heresies in. Anyway, you can run your hand on top of a KIipsch heritage speaker, and there is a specific feel to the veneer. It's not like, it doesn't have a ton of poly on it, so you can still feel the wood, but it's not like you're gonna get a splinter or anything. There's just something special about the way that they finish their wood. And walnut is one of my favorite veneers on a speaker. I don't know what it is, but to me, walnut is the most beautiful speaker finish that one can get. These are very handsome looking speakers, attractive. They have a beautiful kind of off-white grill. I'm gonna go on record, these are the most attractive powered speakers I've ever seen. It makes me happy looking at them. Their badging also makes me look happy. I love vintage stuff, but I don't love the cantankerous nature of vintage equipment. That's why we can get new equipment that looks vintage or has some vintage vibes. It makes me happy. It's also got these cool cork mats on the bottom, so technically you can just set these right on top of your console. And they got cool controls. So these are basically just roundy things. Now they're really cool because they're the big metal knurled knobs. And at the top you can select which source you want. So you have TV, Bluetooth, optical, USB, auxiliary, and phono. On the back, you can see there's a big port up there on top. You might be worried about where you're putting these next to the wall, but when you set these up, there is a great application. You download it on your phone, or your mobile device, or your iPad, or Samsung Galaxy tablet. Available. I almost said available at Sears, which they're not. None of them are available at Sears anymore, which is a shame. I bought my first home theater system at Sears. They used to have a killer stereo section. Anyway, what are we talking about? On the back, you have an HDMI eARC up at the top. Next to that is a service USB port, I'm assuming for firmware updates, things like that. Next to that, you can select whether this speaker is the left or the right. Underneath there, you have a double analog input. Selectable, so it's either phono stage or it's a regular analog input. Next to that is a 3.5 millimeter auxiliary in. Next to that, a subwoofer output. Then you have your DAC, which can handle up to 192 kilohertz, 24-bit 192. There's an optical input and a USB input. Then down at the bottom, you have where the other speaker connects. It's a 4-pin XLR type of a cable. There's a cable that comes with it, and then there's a cable extension. I think you can get up to about 19 feet, 20 feet with the extension and the regular cord. So chances are you're going to have plenty of cable to get these speakers exactly where you want them. That's a complicated question because they can sound very different depending upon how you set them up. They can sound very different depending upon where you have them at in your room. They can sound very different depending upon how you utilize, how you manipulate the EQ, because there is a 3-band EQ. There's also dynamic bass boost, or dynamic, I don't know what they don't call it bass boost, but it's a bass boost. And then, I don't know what else. So there are a variety of ways that you can make this speaker sound. The 7s did not sound honky at all. They just sounded like a regular speaker. They sounded clear, they sounded clean, they sounded believable. The timbre, how instruments sound, how voices sound. Very natural. That's just in kind of the straight line mode. But you didn't get these for the straight line mode. And let me tell you, dynamic bass is really addictive. It's like lobster mac and cheese. It's like a hot fudge sundae. It's decadent, it's completely unnecessary, and it's probably not good for you in large doses. But it's awesome. It's not neutral, it's not probably what the artist intended it, but oh my goodness, it's just it's so engaging. Now, these things pack a punch, and just like the 9s, when I turned the dynamic bass on, I actually had to go into the EQ and sneak down the bass a little bit more to get my preference in my room. Everybody has a different room. I got these to sound pretty much the way I wanted it to. I also hooked up a little subwoofer to these. I was not trying to tweak more bass into the system. I was tweaking less bass out of the system. The takeaway to that statement is don't feel like these are not going to give you enough room-shaking bass, even just by themselves. You can make them sound as natural as your little brain desires for your preferences. You want more treble, you can put more treble. So my EQ was, I had to bring down the bass a little bit because I like the dynamic bass on. I had to bring down the mid-range about -2, and then I just left the treble alone. That's what I liked, personally. So how do these compare to their bigger brother, the 9s, and what are my final thoughts? First of all, price. They come in at $1,300. That can sound like a lot, and I'm going to get comments here that say, you're not the cheap audio man anymore. However, I have oftentimes talked about having a $500-$600 threshold for each separate component. So these actually come in way below. So if you're buying an amp, a DAC, speakers, phono stage, that would come in around $2,000 to $2,400 depending upon what components you got. With the 7s, that comes in at $1,300. This component comes in at half the price of what some of the other components I talk about when you put them together into a system. The 9s are $200 more. I still prefer the 9s. The 9s are a much larger speaker. Now, I do not want you to think that I'm saying the 7s aren't good. I think they're spectacular. I think it's an absolute bargain at $1,300. And if I hadn't heard the 9s, I would be 100% happy if I only had the 7s as my system for the rest of my life. Problem is, I heard the 9s. It's not really I heard the 9s, I experienced the 9s. There's just more music. There's more enjoyment. I don't think the 7s or the 9s are really rivaled at this price point. The 7s and the 9s are a revelation for somebody that wants great sound, that doesn't want to go down the entirety of the audiophile rabbit hole to find the perfect sounding system. I can't say enough about the 7s or the 9s. If it were my money, I'm going to pop for the extra $200 and get the 9s. They're just bigger. To me, they're a little bit funner. The 7s are a traditional speaker size. It's a 6.5-inch woofer, but the 9s have some room presence. And I just think it's fun that they're so much bigger. I think it adds a little bit more to the soundstage, to the experience. By the way, the soundstage imaging on these, great. I mean, nothing to complain about. Even running just 2 speakers, I still felt like we had an immersive experience when we were watching movies and television. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. And again, these are not expensive. If you think about it in the grand scheme, a $500 amplifier or even a $300 amplifier, a $200 DAC, $600 speakers, Bluetooth remote control, phono preamp, HDMI ARC, usually that's only available on the most affordable amplifier that has HDMI ARC that's not from like China is, I believe, the SVS Soundbase 2 or Pro, which is awesome. It's an awesome amplifier. But it comes in around $700 or $800. And that's probably the only thing that you could really compare the 7s or the 9s to, would be an SVS Soundbase Pro with a whatever speaker you wanted. Then you have similar functionality, but you don't have any of the DSP. And you don't have control of the subwoofer through the app. Anyway, I feel like I'm starting to ramble. I love the 7s. I love the 9s. If it were me and my money, I'd be buying the 9s. But it has nothing to do with how they sound or one is better than the other. It's just it sounds bigger, it's funner. And these KIipsch powered speakers are the most fun I've had with hi-fi for a long time. Well done, KIipsch. So if you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon. Patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night, we have Patreon-only Zooms, Patreon-only Discord, Patreon-only Facebook. You can also use the links in the description. Those are affiliate links, which means if you click any buy, I do get a commission, but it doesn't cost you any more, so it's a great way to support the channel. You can also try Amazon, Rune, or Tidal. Links in the description. Click sign up. They have a free trial. Even if you quit, I get a couple of dollars. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen. You can also buy a coffee mug if you want. Binge listen and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.